just first take you to all the important points which are there for our entire new education and training scheme, right? First and the foremost thing, post November and December examination, all the students will be automatically converted without charging a single rupee fees to a new scheme. So in past, there has been a parallel examination which was there. Because of that, we had to do a conversion. But in our case, we are not going to have any parallel examination. Please note, we are not going to have parallel thing after November and December examination. December for foundation, November for inter and final, right? After conversion, right? If you have not ordered, yeah, please.
They can.
And if anyone want to convert, they can get converted today also for the new syllabus. That is not a problem.
November, December,
who are not writing examination in November and December, because November, December exam is going to be with the old syllabus only. Very clear. Now, if you have not, the second part, after conversion, if you have not ordered the study material earlier, you can place a request in CDS scheme. So you will get the new material only. If you are writing November, December exam, you want the old material, you can still take. But if by God forbid any person has taken the old material and is going to write examination of May 23 or June or May 24 or June 24, in that particular case, they have to pay 500 rupees only for the new material and 1000 for case of inter and final. I hope I am clear, very clear. Right? So if you have not taken it and you want to place an order in the CDS, you will get the new material directly. But students who have already taken the material and would like to take the new material, in case of foundation, it will be 500 rupees only. This also, let me put it, because of only one reason, the study material which we are going to dispatch, online addresses information is required, very important. So when you are going to place your orders, please ensure that all your addresses are properly updated so that this material reaches you, right? Then the third one is group-wise and paper-wise exemption will be announced by the examination department separately. Let me just share with you, there is a complete deliberation of first round which is completed. That is also I am putting it. We are, after the announcement of the new scheme, we are waiting for people, students, queries to come so that those can be also incorporated and that also can be shared with you soon. But let me just share with you that in most of the cases, institute has always been completely favoring the students, whether it is now, in future or in past. So don't worry about this. This is important thing. Paper-wise exemption will be shared with you shortly by the examination department. Now, self-paced online modules can be undergone by only after passing both the groups of intermediate examination and after registering for final course. So this is also clear. So when do you have to go through a self-paced learning? Is only when you pass both groups of intermediate and you are registered for final course, right? Then students who have qualified both groups of intermediate 8 papers are exempted from set C and D because you have completed 8 papers. So set C and D is exempted. There is a deliberation. If any student is interested, for the self-satisfaction, we will keep it open, but that is at a later point in time. Today, I do not want to mention. So that the excitement, madam, that student excitement which is there for 10 papers, if they want to do a learning, we'll keep it open, but that will not be a requirement, mandatory requirement for the purpose of examination for all your information. Because a lot of queries have come where we have thought about it. Exemption on set C and D will be applicable to students who have passed 7 papers. Any paper, example, if C or D, group 1 or group 2, depending upon that, the exemption will be given in set C or D. Set C will be applicable for paper group 1, set D will be applicable. Is it right? No, it's option to choose. Okay, fantastic. So again, a favorable point for the student that they'll have an option to choose whichever they want to do, right? In the final course, students unsuccessful on the old scheme will appear in May 24 examination under the new scheme after automatic conversion. Such students may qualify self-paced online module as applicable after passing May 24 examination, but before applying for membership. So we have kept this very comfortable for our students who are in process of completion, so that their examination difficulties are not there. We can keep them very comfortable that way, right? Then
The next one is important. Second sentence.
oh, if unsuccessful in May 24 examination, student would be eligible for subsequent examination only after qualifying self-paced online module. This is very important. Yes, I missed out, madam. Thank you very much for reminding. This is a very important point which you all have to note down.
Relaxation is only for May attempt, that they can
So-
for membership.
Yeah. So further to clarify is basically this relaxation is only for May 24, where they can do it post passing and before taking membership. But for May 24, after May 24, it's going to be you need to clear that self-paced and then only you can go for final examination. Now, let me just take you to the next point, which is students who have not commenced practical training. There has been a very interesting discussion, Chairman Sir, with regards to this 30th June. Lot of who have commenced. Yeah, so before and after both are there. So I'm just talking on the Mudda 30th June 23. Lot of people had deliberation, discussion that I've cleared only one group. Should I join articleship or not? I'm waiting for the inter-examination result. What will happen if it is there? So friends, we were very clear in our announcement. Students who have commenced practical training by 30th June will have to continue 3 years of practical trainings. 156 days of leaves will be there. They have to undergo AICAI TSS course during the practical and ensure that before examinations they complete, be eligible to appear for final examination under the new scheme, which is for the 6 months period, which is very clear. Right, madam? Right. Now, let me just take you to the next one. Students who have passed either group of intermediate and did not commence their 3 years of practical training till 30th June, uska kya hai? So, which is example of case today, where the students have completed their examination. Students who have completed both the groups, they'll immediately get into the registration, and for all those students have to actually do the articles for 2 years, right? If I have passed anyone, that means if I have not started my articles before 30th June, I have to write my another group, pass, and then join articleship, right? Those students who are going to join now are going to have a entitlement of 12 days leave, right? To be eligible to appear for final examination under the new scheme after 6 months from practical training, subject to qualifying of self-paced learning. So self-paced learning is to be qualified by you in set A and B, because C and D is exempted for you people. Is it clear? I hope. Right? Let me just take you to the next provision, which is student provisionally registered in intermediate under direct entry route. They will be automatically converted into new scheme. They will be eligible to appear intermediate examination after completion of 8 months of study period. Have to pass both groups of intermediate of examination, and they will be eligible to do 2 years of practical training. Then they are entitled for 12 days of leave, have to undergo the AICAI TSS course post completion of articleship training, right? But before appearing for examination. they are eligible to do the they are eligible to write their final examination in the new scheme after 6 months of completion of their articleship training and also qualifying the self-paced online modules. So friends, I hope these steps are very clear. This video, we are going to place it before on the BOS portal as well. And anyways, if you have any queries, we are always available to give you all the inputs. Now, let me take you to the next part. Students who will appear in November 23 final examination in the old scheme and pass one group of the group of one of the group will be automatically converted into new scheme. Very simple. November ke andar last examination hai. If you have cleared only one group, so automatically in May 24 you will be converted into new scheme, which, let us be very clear, it is the very clear cutoff: November 23 examination and May 24 examination will be exempted of the remaining group remaining papers in self-paced module, that is C and D. Have to qualify self-paced online module A or B as applicable before applying for membership, which we have discussed in the previous slide also. Continue to do 3 years practicalship training, articleship training. Then 156 days leave calculation is also very clear. Have to complete their course of AIC ITSS course before as soon as during the process of practical training, but before appearing final examination, right? Now the validity is very clear, that has been deliberated in past. Even in the new CRET, we have actually put foundation course 4 years from the date of conversion for existing student. Thereafter there is no revalidation allowed, because by that time you will complete your level, you are eligible to go for direct entry also, right? So what is the purpose of revalidating in this entire process? Intermediate course, 5 years from the date of conversion of the new scheme. Thereafter, students are allowed to revalidate the intermediate registration only once in the new scheme. That's it. And in final course, in 10 years. So these are the points which are required from a fundamental understanding point of view. Where will you stand after today's result? I hope you...
Again, I would like to just highlight here that a condition for appearing in the intermediate exam is a minimum 8 months of study period. And therefore, the cutoff date of 1st September 2023, and I hope all those students who are going to appear for the who have appeared for the June 2023 exam, foundation exam, are keeping this in mind, that after the results are out, please register on or before 1st September 23 to be eligible for the May 2024 attempt of intermediate. The second situation or the second scenario for intermediate under the foundation route is that students who would be appearing for their intermediate examination in November 2023 under the old scheme, because November 23 we are going to have exams under the old scheme. So students who have appeared in that exam, who would be appearing in the November 23 exam, and they are unsuccessful, then they would automatically get converted into the new scheme of education and training and would be eligible to appear in the May 2024 intermediate exam, which would be held under the new scheme. Students who have appeared in the May 2023 exam, intermediate exam under the old scheme, both the groups, so whose results have been declared today morning. So if they have passed one of the groups in the old scheme of intermediate or got exemption in any of the papers, then for such students, they would be eligible to appear in the intermediate exam for the remaining group or the remaining papers as in the November 23, which would be under the old scheme. And whatever are the exemption criteria or conditions under the old scheme, they would still apply to the November 2023 examinations. The next scenario, again...
Chairman, one point is basically, if you go back to the previous slide, For the student benefit, it is one thing which I just want to put it for a clarity, saying that this scheme of conversion, or you talk about the entire process, was very clearly put in the previous scheme itself when we launched the entire CRET. So we are making it more clearer now in that sense. That's all I just wanted to say, because this was already forming part of, because there was no specific requirement that, with one group you can get into articles or not. Now it is both, which is important.
Yeah. So moving to scenario 4, intermediate level foundation route. Students who would be appearing in the November 2023 intermediate examination under the old scheme, and they pass any of the groups in that examination or get exemption in any of the papers, they would be automatically converted to the new scheme of education and training. In May 2024, they would be appearing in the remaining group of the intermediate exam under the new scheme of education and training, and the exemption as would be provided as per the new scheme would be applicable to them. And after passing the other group, so they have passed the first group or some of the papers in the November 23 exam. After passing the remaining papers, that means they would have passed both the groups of intermediate. They would be able to register for the final course, and they would be opting for the self-paced online modules, that is either set C or set D, which we discussed earlier when we were discussing about the group-wise scenarios. So these are some of the scenarios with respect to the intermediate level, the foundation route. Now moving on to the intermediate level, the direct entry route. So here, under the old scheme, the requirement was that a student under the direct entry would be eligible to appear for the intermediate exam after completing 9 months of practical training. That is, the student after getting registered for intermediate under direct entry route can join practical training, and after completion of 9 months of practical training, the student would be eligible to appear for the intermediate exam. Under the new scheme of education and training, a student has to pass both the groups of intermediate and then only join the practical training, because we are talking about uninterrupted practical training. And so the direct entry students would join intermediate, appear for intermediate examinations, pass both the groups, and they would need a 8-month study period from the date of the registration to the date of the examination. That means as on the date of the intermediate examination, they will need to complete at least 8 months of study period, and then they would be eligible to appear for the intermediate examination, pass both the groups, and join the practical training. So now we move to some of the scenarios at the intermediate level under the direct entry route. So where the students have commenced their 3 years of practical training by 1st February 2023. So they have commenced practical training by 1st February 2023. They would have completed 9 months of articles and would be eligible to appear for the November 2023 intermediate examination, which would be held under the old scheme. If they are successful, they would be registering for final and continuing their journey under the CA course. But if they are unsuccessful, then they would automatically be converted to the new scheme of education and training. They would be eligible to appear in the May 2024 intermediate examination under the new scheme. And as far as the practical training is concerned, they would continue with their 3 years of practical training and be entitled to 156 days of leave. They will have to undergo the ICAI course during the practical training, but before appearing in the final examination, which is the criteria attached with the 3 years of practical training. They would have to qualify the self-paced online modules as applicable after appearing for passing both the groups of the intermediate examination, and appear in the final exam under the new scheme in the last 6 months of practical training. So here we need to understand the difference between the two practical training routes, which Dayabai also explained, but I will just repeat it because this is something important, that those who are already registered under 3 years, they would continue to serve 3 years. They would be eligible to 156 days of leave, and they would be eligible to appear. They would be eligible to undergo AICITSS during their practical training, and they would be eligible to appear for the final examination in the last 6 months of their practical training. Those who would be under the 2 years practical training, they would be entitled to 24 days leave over the 2 years period. They would have to undergo AICITSS course after completion of their practical training, and they would be eligible to appear for the final examination after completion of 6 months from the end of their practical training. So these are the two important differences between the 2 years practical training and the 3 years practical training, which everybody needs to keep in mind. So this was the scenario 1. Now moving to scenario 2 under the direct entry route, where the student, after undergoing 9 months of practical training, appears in the November 2023 intermediate exam, which is under the old scheme. The student has passed one of the group or has got exemption in any of the papers. Then the student would be automatically converted to the new scheme of education and training. The student will appear and pass the remaining group or the remaining papers of intermediate exam under the new scheme in May 2024. He would continue with the 3 years of practical training, get 156 days of leave, undergo AICITSS during practical training before final exam, qualify for the self-paced online modules as applicable, and appear in the final exam under the new scheme in the last 6 months of practical training. Moving to scenario 3, again intermediate level direct entry route. Students who have commenced their 3 years of practical training by 30th of June, but not completed 8 months study period till 1st November 2023, they would not be eligible for the November 2023 intermediate examination, and they would be automatically converted to the new scheme of education and training. They would be eligible for May 2024 intermediate exam in the new scheme, appear in the intermediate exam under the new scheme in May 24, continue 3 years of practical training, entitled to 156 days leave, undergo AICITSS during practical training, but before final exam, qualify self-paced online modules after passing both groups of intermediate, and appear in the final exam in the last 6 months of practical training.
So, Chairman, one quick point is basically we are trying to tell you is if you have done your registration of articles before 30th June, right, sir?
For direct entry?
Yeah, direct entry.
For November, it will be first step.
Yeah. So just trying to put it in manner where if they have registered. So the point is their practical training will be for 3 years, but examination process is for primarily the new scheme, right?
From November 24 onwards, May 24. Yeah, from May 24 onwards, it would be the new scheme for everybody. So scenario 4, where students registered in direct entry after 1st February and have not commenced their practical training by 30th June. Like I said, they would not have completed their 8 months or 9 months, of their practical training. They would automatically get converted to the new scheme of education and training, eligible for the May 24 exam, appear and pass both groups of the May 24 intermediate exam under the new scheme. Because they have not commenced their practical training by 30th June and they are passing both the groups of intermediate, then they will be able to commence 2 years of practical training, entitled to 12 days leave per year, register for the final course, qualify self-paced online modules, undergo AICITSS course after completion of their 2 years of practical training, but before final examination, and appear for final exam after completion of 6 months from the end of their practical training. Direct entry route, again, another scenario 5, that students who will register till 1st September 23 under the new scheme, that is from 1st of July to 1st of September under the new scheme, on completion of 8 month study period, they would be eligible for the May 2024 intermediate examination. Right. So like I said, because they are joining under the new scheme, they would be covered under the 8 month study period. And in May 24, they would be completing, those who have registered till 1st September 23. So they can appear for May 24 intermediate exam under new scheme, appear and pass both groups, commence 2 years of practical training, entitled for 12 days leave, register for final course. So registration for final course, commencement of practical training, and registration for self-paced would be all together. Qualify self-paced online module, undergo AICITSS course after completion of 2 years of PT practical training, and appear for final examination. Scenario 6, again direct entry route. Students registered provisionally before, because direct entry route, why so many scenarios are there, because like I mentioned earlier, there is a change in the requirement. Like presently a student can join practical training, complete 9 months and appear, and in the new scheme they join intermediate, complete 8 month study period, then appear. And therefore there are the scenarios as compared to the foundation route, because in foundation route there is no such requirement change or eligibility change, and therefore scenarios were less. So students who have registered provisionally before 1st July 23 from the direct entry route, and their final year graduation result will be declared in June or July 23, they would automatically be converted to the new scheme of education and training. They would not be eligible for the November 23 attempt. They would have to complete 8 month study period and would be eligible for the May 24 inter exam only after passing the final year graduation. They appear and pass both groups of intermediate exam under new scheme, and the rest of the eligibility for appearing for final exam under the new scheme, it remains the same.
Sir, I would like to add, sir. Now in the new scheme, earlier, in the earlier scheme, what we were having, student could register provisionally when they were in the last year of the graduation. Now, to make it much more easier, those students who could not get that eligibility percentage of marks in graduation, in post-graduation, if they're having the percentage of marks, they can always come through the post-graduation routes. But now what we have done, now provisionally the registration for postgraduate students is also now allowed. So now in their last year of their post-graduation, they can provisionally register, and after completion of 8 months, they can appear for the exam. So that's the change.
Yeah, thank you, madam, for clarifying that. So now moving on to the last scenario under the direct entry route at the intermediate level. Students who will register provisionally on or after 1st July 23 till 1st March of 2024 in the new scheme of education and training, and their final year graduation result will be declared in June, July 24. So next year. So they would be required to complete 8 month study period and would be eligible for November 2024 exam. So they would have to register on or before 1st of March 24 to be eligible for the November 24 intermediate exam. And after passing both groups of intermediate exam under the new scheme, they would be able to register for the 2 years of practical training, and the rest of the requirements under the new scheme, 2 years practical training would also apply to them, ICAI. So those were with respect to the final level exams. Now moving on to the practical training, some of the scenarios. Students who have already commenced the practical training till 30th June 2023, they will continue 3 years of practical training. They will be entitled to 156 days of leave. They will have to undergo AICITSS course during practical training, but before appearing in the final examination, qualify the self-paced online module as applicable after passing both groups of intermediate exam, and they would be eligible to appear for final exam in the after completion of 6 months from the end of the practice. In the last 6 months. Because we are talking about students, so this is an error. We'll correct that. So in the last 6 months, they will have to, they would be eligible to appear for the final examination. Scenario 2 of practical training, students who had already passed either of the intermediate groups and have not commenced the practical training by 30th June 2023. They would be required to appear and pass the remaining group of the intermediate exam under the old scheme in the so this would be a situation like as on today. So for them there would be one attempt under the old scheme in November 2023 to appear and pass the remaining group of the intermediate exam. After passing that, they would commence 2 years of practical training entitled to 12 days leave per year, and rest of the requirements of the 2 years practical training would apply to these students. Scenario 3 of practical training, where the student has passed one of the group of the intermediate in May exam under the old scheme, they would be appearing and passing the remaining group, or required to appear and pass the remaining group of intermediate under the old scheme in November 2023. So that then they would have passed both the groups, making them eligible to commence the 2 years of practical training, and all the conditions and criteria relating to 2 years of practical training would be applicable to them. Scenario 4 for practical training, students who will pass both the groups of intermediate exam either in May 23 or November 23 under the old scheme, they would be able to commence their practical 2 years practical training immediately and go along the path to become the chartered accountant under 2 years for the with 12 days leave per year, registration with final course, qualify self-paced, do the AICAI SS course after completion of 2 years of practical training, and for them the eligibility to appear for final exam would be 6 months after completion of the practical training. So